Let's start off, though, with the sex scandal. It's actually a public broadcasting scandal because it was broadcast last night on the ABC's once prestigious current affairs program, Four Corners. I say once prestigious because it's had a hell of a bad run of late. It spent 3 weeks last year, I think it was, running what it claimed to be the story of the century, running all that Russia collusion nonsense that proved to be absolute piffle from the United States. It also, of course, was one of the leading programs wrongly vilifying Cardinal George Pell as well. Well, last night it went very, very tacky indeed. It put together a program that essentially tried to smear the coalition and in particular two senior ministers over allegations of real and alleged extramarital affairs. It was grubby. Have a look at this.
Both married with children, Rochelle Miller now admits she and Minister Tudge were having an affair. She was terrified they would be found out.
I was walking with Alan and I was chatting to him, and I intentionally dropped back because I didn't want to walk in with him. I mean, I wasn't his guest, I wasn't his partner, and I didn't want to be on camera. And he stopped and he turned around and he said, "No, I want you to walk in with me." And I was really surprised by that. I have a feeling that my appearance had a bearing on why Alan would want to walk in with me on his arm, and I felt at the time a lot like an ornament, and that I was being used as an ornament.
Now, that was not some trash version of New Idea on television. That was not some Channel 10 mockumentary. That was the ABC's Four Corners program. That woman was a senior staffer for Federal Minister Alan Tudge. They were both adults. They were both married. They were both involved in a consensual affair. Now, you don't have to agree with their behaviour to agree that it's their business and not ours. There is no scandal in that behaviour, yet the ABC tried to scandalise it. And then they turned their sights on destroying the reputation of the Attorney-General.
But in the corridors of Canberra, Christian Porter was developing a reputation. In late 2017, his behaviour came to the attention of then Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull.
On the 6th of December 2017, I had a meeting with Porter in my office, and I told him that I had had reports of him being out in public, having had too much to drink, and in the company with young women, and he acknowledged that. He didn't argue with that. And I just said, look, this is unacceptable conduct for a cabinet minister, and it exposes you to the risk of compromise.
Well, Turnbull was then Prime Minister. He couldn't have been too disgusted by any of this because only weeks later he promoted Christian Porter to become Attorney-General. In fact, the whole of last night's program reeked of vengeance from Malcolm Turnbull. He was looking to settle scores with his former coalition colleagues, and the ABC was only too willing to oblige. It also ran stories about pub crawls and the like by Christian Porter when he was a young university student. It was that pathetic, this muckraking activity. Now, of course, after Barnaby Joyce, the former Deputy Prime Minister, was exposed in a scandal, having an affair with his staffer and having a baby with her, Malcolm Turnbull introduced what was called the bonk ban, a ban between ministers having relations with their staff. Now, both of these sets of allegations predate all of that, and the current Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, says, therefore, there's no fallout at all from the ABC's report. Have a look.
As Prime Minister, they have engaged in no conduct as they've served in my cabinet that is in breach of the code. I would expect them in their behaviour, as all of my ministers and myself included, to abide by the code and to live by that code as ministers.
It really was a low point for the ABC last night. It really was extraordinary stuff. Now, just a couple of years ago, Ita Buttrose, who is now the chair of the ABC, back then she wasn't, but she commented on Channel 10 about the story about Barnaby Joyce. Now, Barnaby Joyce's revelations, to my mind, were a much more legitimate story because he was the Deputy Prime Minister, because he was having a baby with somebody in his office, obviously affected his whole public profile. But here's what Ita Buttrose said back then.
It's his business. It's really none of our business. But the fact that he's having an affair is really his business, not ours.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ita, if that wasn't a story, what on earth was that rubbish, that muckraking that went to air on the ABC last night? If they want to delve into the private lives of politicians, there's plenty on the Labor and Greens side, and there's plenty in the Canberra Press Gallery that the ABC could focus on. This was just a hit job on the coalition, an attempt to besmirch the reputation of two ministers, and it was so partisan, and it was certainly part of Malcolm Turnbull's agenda, as I said, to get vengeance against his former colleagues. A real low point for the ABC. If there are not massive repercussions from the board down at the ABC, then you may as well just give up on this billion-dollar behemoth that you and I fund every year, supposedly to give us classy, objective journalism. What a sad, sad state of affairs.